What's going on, guys? Welcome to another Lifestyle of Eden podcast. I'm your host, Nick Tognetti, and today I have a very special guest and friend, Elena Colombe. Or Colombe? Is it Colombe?
The B is actually silent.
How do you say
So Colombe. It's
Cologne?
French.
Oh, wow. It's
Yeah.
French?
Yeah, it's French. Actually, have you guys ever seen like the Colombe coffee, like La Colombe coffee, like that
Oh,
brand?
wow. Okay.
So it's French for the word dove. Yeah,
Does that mean you're a peacemaker? Because I don't know. Are you?
absolutely not.
I was gonna say I've never gotten that gentleness from you. I'm always like, man, Elena is a go-getter, dude. That you're like, what?
I don't think that people would call me necessarily like an asshole, but I definitely like don't think
Say it how it is.
I'm not like I'm not a dick, but I'm not dishonest with people about things.
No, for
So
sure.
I'm just trying to tell it like it is.
That's what I
I
get
think
from
there's a
you.
yeah, I think there's a difference between people that are like, I'm not being mean, I'm just being honest. I'm like, no, you're being mean. You
Yeah.
can be honest without being a dick.
Yeah.
Just
No,
I
that's
think
what
there's a
I
big
get from you.
difference.
I'm like, okay, to me, you're not, like you said, you're not a dick. To me, I'm like, no, Elena's awesome. I love Elena. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, no, I wouldn't mess with Elena. So I get that interesting duality there. I love it. That's so good. No, that's awesome. No, I'm super excited to have you on. And obviously, we have the same business coach, Taylor, and got to follow each other for a little bit of time. And really, I feel like get to have some good conversation when we were in Dallas and everything else. But
Yeah.
one of the things that's been interesting about following your journey and everything else is that you have had Hashimoto's. And so I want to hear where you are in regards to, I know you had Hashimoto's, but technically, do you still have it? And all those things. I
Hmm.
want to get into that. But before we do, I want to hear a little bit about what brought you here in not only in your health journey, but now working with clients. Who do
Yeah.
you really work with? Give that whole spill with everything.
Yeah. My Hashimoto's journey is very much tied into my coaching journey. I am the coach that I needed 10 years ago when I was getting sick.
Wow.
And we didn't exist. Functional nutrition wasn't like a thing. It was very
Yeah,
much the season of IIFYM and eat whatever you want as long as it
yeah,
fits your macros. And that's a very slippery slope to go down. I'm sure you remember those days.
I
It's
do.
like
I
how
do.
how
That
how
was a
much
lot of,
how much junk food can I fit in my macros today was basically the vibe.
I got cussed out. I literally remember off the top of my head, there was one post I made. I said, if you are a bodybuilder doing, if it fits your macros, I can't remember how I said it, but I said basically you're a disgrace to the bodybuilding sport. And I got devoured with people
Oh,
just
I'm
cussing
sure.
me out and this. I had a lot of people supporting me too, but it was such a dividing line. Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Well, yeah, it was the season of food quality doesn't matter, calories matter. And I'm like,
Exactly.
bro.
And that's probably a major reason for I'm not probably, it would be the major reason for either the inducing of hashis or the exacerbation of it, because
Correct.
it's ruining the gut microbiome, it's a stress on the body, it's all those different things. So that
Mhm.
probably, you probably have a lot to say on that topic there.
I have some thoughts, but that the TLDR is that me being sick, and at the time I was like a little baby bikini bodybuilder in the early and mid 2010s, and
Yeah.
I was a full-time music teacher, so it was a very high stress job. Before school choir in the morning, teach all
Did you
day
say
long.
2000?
I was in college in 2010, but that's when I got into bodybuilding. But it was the early 2010s. It was 10 to kind of like 2018-ish. I feel like
Yeah,
that kind of
yeah,
all lasted. There was a solid near decade
yeah.
where the I think that in that late 2010s into the 2020s is when people started to wise up a little bit. And I had wised up sooner out of necessity, but the online movement really didn't start to, I think, show up until the mid to late 2010s is when those conversations started
Right,
happening. But yeah, it
right.
was a very high stress job in situation. And because you go to school before school, you teach before school, you teach school, and then you have like your after school stuff. And then I would
Yep.
have a 45-minute commute home on either side. And I was still in the gym 5 days a week. And my pre workout was a Bang energy drink and sour gummy worms.
Yeah.
And then I was drinking like 20 ounces of brewed coffee in my classroom every single day. It's no
Right.
wonder I made myself sick. But oh, but my food fit my macros. It's fine.
Yeah, that's good.
That's
That's it
fine.
right there. That is such a theme for so many people. So
Yeah.
in 2010, yeah, because the reason I stopped you, I was like, you were a teacher in 2010. I thought I'm 30 now. I was like, I thought she was like around my age,
I'm 33. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. In 2010, did you actually have Hashimoto's, or did you know you did, or were there things? What was that looking like?
Yeah. In 2010, I was still in college. I graduated in 2012. So I was at the time, didn't really not paying attention to anything. You can get away with anything when you're younger because your body will adapt and compensate. and you don't know that it's compensating until sometimes years later, which is really unfortunate. But yeah, that was when I started to get into sort of the fitness scene. When I had gotten into lifting when I was in high school and got a personal trainer, and then I worked in the weight room in my college at my university, and I was friends with the dudes that lifted, friends, because you're in college and they just want to be your friend. I was the weight room girl, and then I got connected into some bodybuilding stuff, and then got connected to my first coach through a guy I met in college, and then started down that road, like I said, in my early 20s of trying to attempt to be a bikini bodybuilder, which was not a great time because I also had struggled with bulimia for about a decade at that point. So
Oh
it was
gosh.
just like
Wow.
a hot mess express
Yeah.
on all fronts. It was not a good time. But then the wake up call that something was wrong with my body was when I fell asleep driving behind the wheel on the freeway and rear-ended somebody. And that was terrifying.
Gosh.
Absolutely terrifying. And so that's when I
You were
started kind of going
sober?
down the rabbit hole. Yeah, it was in the morning. I was on my way to school and I was sleeping. I would go to bed at 9 o'clock, absolutely exhausted, wake up around like 4:30, hit the gym, and then go straight from the gym to school to hit my 7:30 a.m. class
Yeah.
that I had 4 days a week. And I was in my car it was like a random Thursday or Wednesday morning. And I was always nodding off behind the wheel, which probably should have been a sign that something was not right.
Yeah. Wow.
But you've got to get up and you got to go to work. And how am I going to get to work? I'm going to drive. I don't know what else to do. Like, I can't just like, oh, I'm sleepy, I can't go to work.
Yeah.
So I fell asleep on the wheel or rear-ended somebody, and luckily nobody was seriously injured, and vehicles were still running. I don't know how I got away with that, but we just got lucky. Not
Wow.
everybody has that easy of a story. But yeah, I was like driving and on the freeway and fell asleep and rear-ended somebody, and we were
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, that's right.
But it shook me. I was like, oh my gosh, that was like the first time something scary like that had really happened to me. I'd never been in a
Sure.
car accident really before. It was terrifying.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Wow.
And that's when I started digging a little deeper. And that's when I went to the doctor and they did the blood work and, oh, you're fine and blah, blah, blah. And went to naturopaths who sold me a bunch of supplements I didn't need and said, yeah, you got some low thyroid. And I didn't know anything. And I knew my mom had thyroid problems. And so I'm like, I guess I just had problems. But I was also like on hormonal birth control and had been for like 10 years at that point. So, there was just like there was a whole like mess of shit happening that sort of was the catalyst for then eventually I didn't get my Hashimoto's diagnosis until I was like 27 or 28 years old.
Oh, wow.
So about 6 years ago, 5, 6 years ago, finally.
Well, let me ask you, so obviously when you got the diagnosis, you had a TPOAB over 34. So before that, did you ever have TPOAB tested and you
Nope.
never had hashis, or you may have had hashis and you didn't actually technically know?
Nobody tested for my antibodies.
Yeah, which most
Nobody
don't.
tested.
I
No,
know
they don't.
doctors test for that. So that's something we've got to do separately.
Yeah. And I remember I was talking to one of my girlfriends and she went to this endocrinologist and she was like, this is amazing. She goes, I found that it turns out that I have Hashimoto's and we're finally going to get some answers. I'm like, who is this guy? Let me go see him because nobody's helping me.
Yeah.
Actually went to go see this guy, walked into the room. He palpated my thyroid and said, yeah, you have Hashimoto's. We'll take the blood work and we'll biopsy the nodules in your thyroid. He's like, you've got it. We'll just wait for the test before we give you medication. I was like, cool. And so I went through then a series of subsequent tests over the next couple of weeks and went in for a thyroid biopsy. I had 2 large nodules on my thyroid, which is a little bit they want to make sure it's not cancerous. And started my medication and then started doing some research. I just started researching. At this point, I had been involved in the fitness industry for a while. I'd been working for the coach that I was working with. I had been involved. So I knew that Western medicine wasn't all it was cracked up to be. I just didn't have what was I looking for? So I started going down the rabbit hole and I just started learning about what are the nutritional changes, because I don't want to just be stuck on medication for the rest of my life, because I know in my heart of hearts that is not the method. And I had a sister-in-law who was a holistic nutritionist and she had worked with patients with cancer and diabetes and all kinds of stuff, and food is part of the equation. And so I started just researching and reading. That I took this information. I got really lucky that in that doctor's office I ended up getting paired with a nurse practitioner named Leanna. And I said, hey, we're doing all this stuff with my medication and like vitamin D and like whatever, but there's these nutritional changes. Is this valid? And she's go ahead and give it a try. She's try it out for 30 days and then reintroduce it and see how you feel. And that will tell you what you need to do. And it was about gluten and dairy and Hashimoto's. And I had no idea at this point actually what the science behind why even especially gluten caught and how that impacts thyroid function and autoimmune disease. I had no idea about molecular mimicry and the enzymes that impact the gut lining. And like, I didn't know any of that stuff. I just knew I felt like ass when I ate it after not eating it for a month. And so that's when I
Yeah.
started my gluten-free journey. Eventually was able to bring dairy back in. I can handle dairy now, which is great because I have rebuilt the resilience of my intestinal health. And so I can handle things to a threshold that I used to
Wow.
not be able to, which is the goal long term, right?
Sure.
But
Real quick on that, because there's a lot of people that are listening that have hashis or are related to
mhm,
somebody with hashis, whatever. How did you personally in your journey
yeah,
rebuild that integrity to be able to bring that back in?
time and not being a dick to myself.
Yeah.
And that's not the answer that anybody wants to hear. There
Yeah.
was no magic supplement or strategy or hack. I just had to give my body time.
When you giving it time away from those things, or what were some of the
Mhm.
practicalities that you
Yeah.
did during that time period?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. I ended up getting the opportunity to work with a couple of really amazing coaches during this time post, because the coach I was with at the time was amazing. He's an incredible bodybuilding coach and a macro coach, but he admittedly was like, I don't know anything about hormones and whatever. And so after a time, I said, maybe I need to do some work with somebody who is familiar with this. And so I worked with
Sure.
a couple of really amazing people, Meredith Passy, who is Fortify Health coaching, if I'm not mistaken. And then Mark Tominick of Tominick Trained, got a chance to work with both of those individuals who are very well versed in functional health, and did some stuff with them as I was continuously learning. And at this point, I was not coaching yet. I was still just, I wasn't sure what was happening, but it was like in the pandemic era. And I knew that I was not going to have a teaching job at the end of the school year. And so trying to figure out what I
Yeah.
wanted to do. And I ended up working with this individual. So some of the practical changes was one, talking to people who knew what they were doing and working with people that knew what they were doing. But if I look back on the whole experience, the actual practical applications, besides just go hire a coach, is I had to stop giving myself outs for following through on the things that I knew made me feel good and the things that made me feel bad. So, like, the thing is, when you remove a food from your diet that's causing inflammation of any type, and inflammation is just like a fancy word, and really nobody knows what it means, but in various capacities, it means different things. But in this scenario, what it meant for me was it would cause a flare up of my thyroid, and it would start to, the antibodies would start to really build up and start to attack my thyroid, which would start to, it would hurt my stomach because I had high levels of intestinal permeability, leaky gut.
Yeah. Leaky
I
gut.
would get achy joints. I would get headaches. Okay.
Yeah. Did you get tired? Was one of the
I
things
would
you
get
get was tired?
so tired.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
so tired the next day. So, like, I had to
Yep.
be so careful. And I had to realize that I had to stop giving myself permission slips to participate in things that I knew were not going to benefit my body. And I had to come to a conclusion that I have to live my life by a different set of rules, and I can embrace that, or I can bitch about feeling like shit.
And that's what you mean when you said
That's,
not being a dick to myself, meaning, hey,
yes,
this is my boundaries of I'm
correct,
punishing my body every time I do this. I've got to
correct.
learn to just say, look, I've got to have the discipline and just say, look, the reality is my life. I can't do this. Others can, maybe I can't.
Mm-hmm.
That's all there is
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
That's
And accepting that there's a steep slope of hypervigilance for a while when you start to make these changes. And
yeah,
it becomes your whole personality for a little bit. And then some people are like, that's disordered and I don't want to restrict food. I'm like, but if you have autoimmune disease or like major gut imbalances or major hormonal imbalances, you don't get to claim that shit.
that's good.
You don't get to claim that shit because you are so far off from what the other people that are complaining about those things are dealing with. Your body is not functioning properly. And you have to live by a different set of rules. Get
Yeah,
behind it and
yeah,
quit your bitching.
yeah.
And that's
That's,
not an easy thing for people to accept. I know how hard that is, like from an emotional perspective. And I will tell my clients, this is hard. You don't have to enjoy every step of the process. If you need to bitch about it, go ahead and bitch about the process, but I still want you to keep showing up because you're going to be so happy in a year from now that you did, and I know that you will. But
yeah,
anyway, beyond that, it was caffeine, it was alcohol, right? I had to stop abusing caffeine. I had to stop killing myself in the gym. I had to stop drinking every single weekend. All of the things that I was used to doing, and especially coming from, got into fitness via bodybuilding, was used to doing 5 days a week, 10 to 12,000 steps a day, and go hard or go home. And I had to pull way back for a while. And
yeah.
even now, you're right, 6 or 7 years later, I can't train 5 days a week hard, or I just completely tank myself. I'm like, I need like a full body day, a push, a pull, right? Push full, pull full. And then I need like a separate like leg day so I can keep like volume on my legs up. And then if I get a fourth day in, it's like a bonus day. And if
That's
I push myself beyond that, bad things start to happen. I
no,
don't know. I don't make the rules. I just follow them.
that's right. No, you're starting to be able to work with the genetic expressions that you have. It's interesting too, because I always noticed whenever like when I was getting ready for Mr. Texas back when I was, I don't know, 21, 22. Yeah, I was 22 when I competed for that. 20, I was getting ready at 21, 22. And people always ask because they see the pictures and everything, and they saw that I put on 20 pounds of stage weight muscle from 21 to 22. And how did you do this? And I said, what was crazy was that one of the big differences my coach made was he rested me. Instead of training 6, 7 days a week, I was training 4 days a week. And I always responded better. And one of the things that I notice now is that if I go really hard for 3 days a week, I might be able to get a fourth in, but my body just won't respond. It'll crash. And so even me, I've had to learn that expression. And I have noticed that if I go too hard, excuse me, if I go too hard too long, or I'm not getting sleep, or I'm not doing this, that, and the other, I'm very sensitive to gut issues. I'll get another
Yeah.
gut issue temporarily. The moment that I step back, those things subside and this, that, and the other. But I'm very susceptible to that. And what's interesting was I've never had TPOAB show up on my labs before. I test for it, but I've never had them show up. And before I moved to California, actually, for about 2 weeks, I was radically stressed because I had an apartment in Greece and that's where I was moving. But then my uncle died and it was like, hey, Nick, you're moving to California to inherit all this and take this over and blah, blah, blah. And for 2 weeks, I was so crazy stressed. I got my blood work done during that time. For the first time, I had TPOAB show up. It was at an 11, so it was real low,
Yeah.
but it was just showing how much stress induces slash exacerbates any autoimmune for that matter. Hashis showing up just like that. Like I've never had it. And then all of a sudden I'm crazy stressed and it shows up. It's putting my body through workouts, putting my body through mental stress, all these things. I've had to pull myself back. And I think that's an awareness that most people don't have. But the reality is they all actually most all have those issues. They're just not connecting the dots. That's the
Yeah.
reason for where their issues is. 10 years ago, I didn't. I would have said, no, it was because I drank that weekend and I'm just tired and I had the, it's no, really, the body is not designed to push that hard all the time and to do X, Y, and Z and then have the mental stress and then load up with Splenda and aspartame and all this other crap that you put into your body, right? I think it's really interesting that you're saying that I wasn't a dick to myself. That's really what it is. It's hey,
Yeah.
I started to learn what my body was speaking to me and speaking its same language.
And it's so tough. That's such a tough mindset shift to make. And
It
I
really
don't
is.
want to discredit anybody who's struggling to accept that because it's a tough lesson to learn and it's a tough boundary to hold, not just with yourself, but with the people in your life that run at maybe a different pace than you. And I love my boyfriend so much. He's an amazing man. And I get so frustrated sometimes because you're not working out today? And I'm like, why you gotta say it like that? And I'm like, you remember when I was really sick? Yeah, let's not play that game again. And I have to remind him sometimes. I'm like, I can't go at your level of intensity with the
Yeah,
physical activity side of things. I just can't. It just doesn't work for me. I've tried to pick the volume back up and tried to pick the intensity back up over the years. And every time it just tanks me. And I'm like, it's not worth fighting that battle. And so when you're also facing a society, whether it's your significant other, your friends, your coworkers, your other fitness friends that are doing things differently that say that well, you
yeah,
should be doing this, you should be doing that. How about you should be doing whatever doesn't make you feel
you
like
need to be doing.
ass? Like,
Yeah,
how can you get results? It's almost, I liken it to medication a little bit. How can you do enough to be effective, but the least effective dose
yeah, good.
of these stressors in your life? Because not that exercise is a stressor and it is a positive stressor until
Yeah.
it's not.
And it's her, yeah, it's the hormesis effect. The things at small doses are good, then too much is too bad. Exactly.
Correct.
So let me ask you two questions. So number one, the first question is you had said you had to remove certain things like your dairies, your glutens, your alcohols,
Mm-hmm.
caffeines, all these different things. So, what amongst those things have you been able to bring back in? And then what have
Mm-hmm.
you been like, no, I literally can't actually ever have that? Can you drink now? Can you have caffeine now? Can you have your dairy? What can you do?
Yeah, I can pretty much have everything to a degree.
Yeah,
To a
that's good.
degree. And that's the ticket. And this is what I talk to my clients about a lot, is that when we do any kind of elimination, the goal is to eventually be able to reintroduce the majority, if not all of these things back into your routine, but to a threshold. It's why whenever I do an elimination diet with a client, and because I do deal with a lot of gut health issues with clients, we always do this double reintroduction. We test the type of food and then we test the quantity of food, because people respond differently to the type and the
Right.
quantity.
That's right.
So
That's
what
big.
can you have and in what frequency? So when it comes to dairy, I can have dairy if it's like the expensive bougie ass dairy, like
Yeah.
organic, whole, full fat, no low fat usually. Although I do, the only like low fat one I do is I do the like Dan and Oikos, like vanilla, those ones. Those are really good. And that's full of fake shit, but it's really good. And but I think because it's just like the vanilla flavor, it doesn't hurt my stomach at all. So I'm like, that's fine. I go through phases with it. I'll eat it and then I'll get sick of it and then I move on. But like cottage cheese, actual cheese, I will use like the bougie ones. And then same with like creamers. I just do like full fat creamers in my coffee. I don't need to do the sugar-free option. Like I'll take the 6 carbs
Yeah.
in a tablespoon. And you want to know what, if I have to sacrifice, because I like to measure my coffee creamer with my heart. I think that's the best way
Yeah.
to measure it. If
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
take an extra 30 carbs a day from my coffee creamer, I think my body can handle that. I think I'll
Yeah.
be fine. I'm at that point where that's not the battle I want to fight. But dairy, like I have to do like full fat, high quality for the majority of what I eat. When it comes to like other things that I had to take out, like nightshades, there was like a solid year where I couldn't eat nightshades. It took about a year for my intestinal lining to kind of like,
Really?
yeah, but I also didn't do any kind of supplementation to help support the intestinal lining because I
Okay.
didn't know
Gotcha.
at that time. But yeah, shoot, when I did that nightshade elimination and I brought them back in, it was not pretty. And I just steered clear for a year. And I can have them now. Good.
Well, what about, so actually, and I didn't even ask you this. I don't even know if we addressed it. Did you ever, or when did you get TPOAB under 34 to where it was in remission? Or did you ever get it into full remission? You did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last time I got it drawn was probably earlier. It was earlier this year. I got it drawn. It was like, it was a 9.
Oh,
And
that's
that's where I hang
awesome.
out. That's where, and
That's
I'm not on medication anymore.
wow. Wow.
But here's the thing is I say I'm like in remission because I can manage it without medication. But I don't say that I don't have Hashimoto's, because I know the second that I start sliding on the things that helped me get to this point, oh, it's going to come back with a
What
vengeance.
got you healed will keep you healed, right?
That's exactly it. So it's like
Exactly.
in
That's
order
good.
for me to maintain the ability to stay off of medication and have a healthy a functioning thyroid, then I have to keep doing the things that got me better in the first place. I don't get to not do those things.
What
And
medication
then
were you on?
what wasn't I on is a better
Yeah, that's a
question.
good question.
I went through the full gamut of the synthroid, levo, armorthroid, naturethroid, things like that. I think that the last one that I
Really?
was on was naturethroid. And I was on such a low dose for a while that like my doctor
Yeah.
was like, just take it like every other day. And I was just like, what happens if I just stop?
Oh gosh. Yeah.
And that was
Wow.
a couple of years ago. I was like, what if I just stop? But what I did when I stopped was I brought in some thyroid specific supplementation. I love the Thyro Boost Plus from New Ethics.
Oh yeah.
I
It's
think that is
I
one of
put
the
I put tons of
best
clients
thyroid
on.
supplements. Yeah, it is
It
one of the
is.
best thyroid supplements. And I take it a few times a week now.
I
You know, I
just
don't take it
bought
every day anymore, but I take it.
I just reviewed one of my clients' blood works this morning from about 2 months ago. Her T3 was at a 2.0.
Oop.
She this morning hers was at 2.6. And we were running the Thyro Boost Plus, and then now we came off of that. We're doing Thyro Boost Essentials, which is basically just the
Mm-hmm.
vitamins to support health, all these different things. And even though I'm sponsored by them, that's not why I push them. I genuinely believe in New Ethics.
Yeah.
They're freaking legit.
Yeah, they have some legit products but I think that the most valuable across the board is that ThyroBoost Plus. I used it as the sort of medication alternative and then
Yeah,
just kept testing. And I was like, I feel fine and everything looks fine. So I think I'm good. And that was a couple of years ago that I did
yeah,
that.
that's awesome.
And I just was like, because I had to switch endocrinologists, and this endocrinologist would pull TSH, T3, and T4, and that's it. And I'm like, I have an autoimmune disease, right? Like,
Well,
what are
you know what?
you doing?
That person actually pulled more than what most do. Most only
This
do
is
four
true.
TSH. They don't even
Some
do
don't.
T. And I'm
I was
like,
gonna say, yeah, I was gonna say, I have so many people that come and they're like, yeah, my doctor looked at my TSH, and that's like the only thing that I've got,
I
and I'm
know
like,
it's so
this is
bad.
so annoying.
It's so bad.
And then another thing too that I want to point out to a lot of people that
Yeah.
I point out this a lot to individuals and even to like my mentees that I work with, because I work with other coaches on their functional cases, and is the correlation between thyroid function and cholesterol. When I was 23 and I'm first getting sick, I had high cholesterol.
Really?
And I'm like, but I'm 135 pounds soaking wet. I'm not overeating, but it was my thyroid function, because people don't understand that healthy levels of your T3 specifically within your body helps your body support fat metabolism and lipid metabolism. And if that
Sure.
is not functioning properly, you're not going to clear out LDLs from the bloodstream
Right.
effectively. And so people, I'm like, now I'm putting the pieces of the puzzle as I can keep learning as a coach of shit that happened 10 years ago. And I'm like, wow,
Yeah. No,
wow.
that's good. That's how I've been too, where I've looked back over time and been like, oh, wait. So I remember one time it was me and Jason Theobald. We were talking for a
Mm-hmm.
few hours a couple weeks ago, and I was sharing with him some concepts that I have on autophagy that we were discussing. And I had said, what's interesting was I'm not a whole food plant-based vegan anymore, but I was for about 4 or 5 years. And when I went vegan, I don't know, I started with it, messing with it in 2018, but like in 2021, I like went full on. And in 2021, I was on no testosterone. My testosterone was at like 250, like just for a man, just like tanked crazy low.
Oh,
And when I went vegan over the next 8 months, my testosterone doubled twice, doubled once, and then it doubled again.
doubled again.
And
Wow.
so we were like, back then we were like, dude, how is this going? How is this happening? We were correlating it with the plant foods, like thinking maybe, but we were realizing later on, oh, wow, because I lowered protein so much, my body was inducing autophagy and my cells were cleaning out and able to uptake cholesterol to produce
Mm,
estrogens better and stuff like that. So now that I've learned what I know now, I look back like you did at my journey and go, that's why that was really going on. But so when along this journey, because one of the things I was thinking was, when you're getting hit with these hashis things 10 years ago and 12
mm-hmm.
years ago, and nobody's able to really help fix it, and this, that, and the other, was there ever this thought that it was like, okay, number one, I'm not the only one in this situation, and number two, there's going to be a lot of people that I'm going to be able to help? Did that thought ever cross your mind then? And then B,
Mm-hmm.
when did it? Because obviously it did, because now you're coaching a lot of these types
Yeah.
of people, right?
Yeah. Yes. And the thought crossed my mind pretty early on. Like I'd always thought like coaching was pretty cool. I'd always thought it would be fun to be like a personal trainer or whatever. I was very passionate about fitness, but like I was a full-time music teacher. And so what do you do then? And that's the stable job, quote
Yeah.
unquote stable, because I didn't have a job after 8 years in the district, and eighth year
Yeah.
teacher with a master's degree who did leadership at the state level and the district level. And there was no space for me there at that point. So clearly that was stable. And
Yeah.
I went through a period of probably 5 or 6 months where like the writing was on the wall. Like I knew that I was on the chopping block. Like they said, "Oh, we're going to support your jobs. We're going to help you rebuild." I'm like, "No, you're not. I know you. I know this song and dance. The administration that I worked under at the time was really good and had proven to me year over year that they would say one thing and then do the complete opposite, because the numbers just determine that we're not able to support this, but they would say anything to make you happy in the moment. And then they would blame it on the numbers not adding up at the end
Sure.
of it. And I'm like, I know how this is going. So I literally did like this whole, like I took courses on like data analytics and like coding and started looking into, because what I realized, this is also fun, is during the pandemic, as trying as that experience was, my health started to improve because I was no longer so stressed. And I liked working remote. I liked being able to sleep more, right? Sleep is so precious to me. I liked that I didn't have to spend 2 hours of my day driving around places and dealing with the things that I was dealing with and being so physically stressed, and was like, I want something, whatever my future, I want something that allows me this flexibility, because this pace lets me care for my body better, right? And I didn't, so there was
Wow.
a correlation. And so then after a few months of kind of like trying to like, dipping my toe in here and there, I was just like, well, let me just, and this was what was funny was at the time I actually had already given my notice to the coach that I was working with. I said, I know that I'm not going to have a job at the end of the year and I need the time to be able to figure out what my next step is. I got to try a few things and see what's up. And then I just had this thought of, why can't I coach? Like, what's stopping me? I know this is what I actually want to do. I just didn't feel like I was good enough to do it.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, but literally at this point, what do I have to lose? And so I busted through my just basic certifications just to get my foot in the door, started shifting my social media around. And I had spoken with some people as I was going through my own journey, because people would ask me all the time, because I was very knowledgeable. At least I thought at the time I was very knowledgeable with the resources that I had and the education that I'd done for myself on how to take care of the body and holistic fitness and nutrition stuff and things like that, right? Just the basics, like the bare bones.
Sure.
And the immediate people in my life, in my immediate circle, looked to me as a bit of an authority on these things. Like my coworkers would ask me questions all the time. And I'm just like, but why can't I be the person? Because I know there are other people like me out there struggling.
Yeah, that's good.
And then I just went like full send into it. And now here we are 4 years later. It's all right.
It's
Rock on,
interesting
dude.
that you had said this started to fit the necessities of your health a little better too, because you can get more rest and this, that, and the reason that hits me wow is because one of my clients, he's out in Iowa, but he wants to get into my mentoring program, and I've really been pushing it on him because he's been a medical student, wanted to be a doctor, and then now I think he's been leaning more towards nurse practitioner and this, that, and the other, but he's been working in the hospitals and stuff, and he's doing half days, half nights. His schedule's whacked out of his mind, like
Yeah.
just every week, every other day. Like he's working during the day, then he's working all nights here, and it's crazy. He wasn't able to the last couple of months. He's been really off his nutrition with me and really off of X, Y, and Z. So I said, hey man, we need a clean slate. Give me your labs. Let's look over everything. Let's see where we're at. Because his markers like 3 months ago were a little off. So then he brings me his
Mm-hmm.
lab this time and they're worse. His
Oh.
CRP is real high. For the first time, he has TPOAB pretty high.
Ooh.
And so I'm sitting there and I go, so and so. I go, look, dude, like at this point, I really don't care what your job is. At this point, as your coach, I'm telling you that this is a health crisis now. I need you to bring this in. And if I need to sign something, I will. You bring it to whoever you're working for and you say, hey, listen,
Correct.
I work in a hospital in healthcare and I'm getting unhealthy. This is hypocrisy.
Yeah.
And I'm getting nailed because of it. And I told him, I said, because his passion, he wants to be a coach for Lifestyle of Eden. And that was always the goal for my business, was to have this guy eventually come under me and learn under me and this, that, and the other. So I told him, I said, dude, I think in January, you need to start in Lifestyle of Eden University. You need to get really deep into it and we need to raise you up as a coach. And I said, I think that this is going to be your escape because the medical field schedule that you have right now is not conducive for your health. And I said, I think that this is going to start to open up doors for you to step back from all of that, be able to build an
Yes.
online business and to be able to be conducive to your health. So I think it's interesting that you say this because I think a lot of people want to do that. What you just said, hey, this job or this thing is not healthy for my lifestyle, but they're not willing to make that jump to say, hey, my
Yeah.
health matters. I do need to do this. And the reality is, that choice is fully within your power and within your hands to do so. I love that you did that because you're giving permission to say, guys, no, you need to do what I did. If your health is falling because of your lifestyle, your daily habits, or your workplace, then it's time to start thinking differently. And maybe it is making the very risky decision of becoming an entrepreneur or something along those lines.
Right. And that's not to say that being a business owner is not without its stressors, but
Oh, of course, of course.
there's a big difference between managing stressors of my choosing and
That's
then having to deal with other people's bullshit all day long. Like that's a big difference. And it is worth noting. And there's a thought that we were talking about earlier that I want to come back to
please go ahead.
because it relates a little bit to this. So like in this situation, oh, let me, I'm like, wait, where do I want to start first? Okay. So back to what are the things that I can now have in that sort of like doses
Yeah.
of things, right?
Yes.
So two that I can actually have to a degree pending, and one is very much pending the quality, is alcohol. I do drink. Okay. I'm not like, I don't drink. I drink like maybe like one drink a month.
When you say the quality, you mean, hey, I can't have Taka vodka. I can have a real high quality. Is that what you're talking about? Or what do you mean by the quality?
That's coming on the next one. So that's a good
Okay.
question. But here's the thing with alcohol. And this is where it ties into almost like the job thing. If you are in a situation where if you switch careers or you talk about sort of careers, it's going to be me and the big D, and I don't mean Dallas, for maybe your relationship or whatever, or what have you, then you have to look at what are the other factors in your lifestyle and boundaries that you're not setting, and what are you willing to say no to so that you can say yes to your health, right? because not everyone is, as much as, yes, you are fully in control of the choices that you make within your life, especially within your career path. That doesn't mean that people are going to be willing to make that decision. So you have to
Exactly.
be very honest with yourself about what you are willing to say yes and say no to. And that includes, as much as people want to be social butterflies, and I've had this conversation with several of my clients of, cool, you claim to be a social butterfly, but or is that just really something that you do to give yourself an excuse to exhaust yourself? And that's your scapegoat excuse as to why you're not getting enough sleep on a nightly basis, as to why you're not doing something. Right? We can justify any choice, but you're not free of the consequences of that choice. And so that's the same thing like with alcohol. I love wine. I actually really love alcohol, like the taste. Like I love cocktails. I
Yeah.
love good wine. I don't love beer, but I do love ciders. And I've never been a big beer person, so I wasn't sad to give that one up from like a gluten perspective. Like it's fine.
Yeah.
I made like some New Year's resolutions when I bought my first house of like, okay, I'm going to drink more wine this year, like more whiskey this year. And I would like collect the bottles and I would like try different things. It was so much fun. And it became part of my personality. But
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to convince me that drinking alcohol is good for my body. Like
Yeah.
it's just not. But
Right.
there's a difference between me doing it because it's like a rote habit and me going, I do want a glass of wine with this meal tonight. And I know that how that's going to impact me over the next 24 to 48 hours. And I
Yeah.
accept that. I accept that decision. It's the same thing with, shockingly, gluten. Okay. I am gluten free, but there are occasions and scenarios in which I will have it because I'm not celiac. I have Hashimotos. I'm not going to have an allergic reaction to it. But there's a threshold, and I know what things I can get away with and what things I can't.
Yeah.
Okay. So I can't eat a Pop Tart. That will make me sick within a day. But if it's like a bakery, like fresh baked bread or sourdough, or like something that's like made from scratch with like really high quality ingredients, I was able to eat bread in Europe. I'm just going to put that out there right now. Like the bread
Yeah.
in Europe did not
Yep.
fuck with me at all.
One of
You know,
my
it's like,
one of my clients hit me up. It was last December, and he's still working with me now, but last December he went to Europe and he said, Nick, when I came back, he goes, explain this to me because I don't get it. He goes, I had pasta, I had this, I had that. He goes, I felt great when I was in Italy, whenever I was in the UK, when I was in London. But whenever he came back here, he ate the same thing and felt like crap. And so
mhm,
I started theorizing, hey, this has to do with the quality of the food. What's interesting was Dr. Rajan, he's the doctor in my practice, and he and I started going back and forth on a couple things. And I said, look, I have a theory that I want to test out. And I haven't fully done it in a controlled study, but I have tested it where I said, why is it? So gluten is only found in three things: wheat, barley, rye. So I
mhm,
said, why is all of a sudden in the United States, not around the world, in the United States, why is gluten intolerance the last 15 years rampant in the United States specifically? Whenever wheat and barley, no matter where people stand on their religious structures, obviously everybody knows I'm a doctor in the faith, and so obviously I'm very serious about that. But in the scriptures, wheat and barley are two of the promised fruits that God was giving to Israel as, hey, this is a treasure. So how is it that these treasures that God was giving to Israel causing people so much sickness? And so I started coming to the conclusion. I said, I don't think it's the wheat and barley. I think it's the way that the wheat and barley is processed in the United States. So what I did was anytime I would have sourdough, it could be sourdough that's just wheat, flour, water. That's it.
mhm.
But if it was made here from the typical wheat and barley sources, I would immediately get tired and put me to sleep in 30 minutes if I ate a slice of sourdough, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So what I did was I imported wheat straight from Italy.
Nice.
And this wheat, it's called a soft wheat, which means naturally soft wheat is not hard wheat, where hard wheat, which is the wheat we know, it's high in gluten. Soft wheat is
Yeah.
lower in gluten. This type of wheat is actually the wheat that is known in Greece, Israel, and in Italy. So I imported it over, made myself a pizza with it, felt phenomenal, no
Yeah.
problems. And me and Dr. Rajan in my practice had already had an experimented thought where we go, I think that if we imported this, I wouldn't feel like that. Sure enough, we did it. I didn't feel bad or whatever. So it just goes to show that it's not just the food. It's like you were saying, it's the
Mhm.
quality
The
of the
quality.
food.
Yeah. And even in that respect too, it's when I say, oh, I can have gluten, I'm saying like I can let myself get away with it, a serving of something
Yeah.
once every 6 weeks.
I
But
agree.
like
I'm the same way.
nobody go like crazy on me, because the thing that gluten that people don't understand when it comes to Hashimoto's specifically, and this is again a tough conversation that I have to have with people when we do discover that they have Hashimoto's, because I'm sure you have the same experience I do, where we're maybe the first person to ever pull a TPO on somebody, and we tell them, hey, we should just go get like confirmation from your doctor of what's going on, and half the time the doctor doesn't even confirm that it's actually autoimmune disease, and
Right.
when they do, and it's, hey, even if they don't tell you, you're clearly showing signs of like thyroid inflammation.
Yeah.
So let's remove this, because what's happening is this, the enzyme is transglutaminase, I believe it is. Somebody, I'm going to look that up and correct myself later, but is so molecularly similar to thyroid tissue that the body recognizes it as excess thyroid tissue and then causes the body to attack the thyroid. And that's why gluten, specifically with Hashimoto's, is not your friend. And so you have to be very picky with it. And it doesn't mean you're allergic to it, but it just means that you're probably not going to feel super great with it. So just make that informed choice. And again, but it's knowing what the threshold is, how much I can get away with, right? How frequently, the frequency of it. And so when we talk about, okay, I've brought in basically everything back into my life, caffeine included. I have some very strict rules around caffeine, which I've been honestly breaking lately, and I need to get that back under control because I'm a human. Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
I've been doing like one extra cup of coffee a day that I really shouldn't be. And I'm like,
You stick
oh
to
my,
one cup? Do you only do one
I
cup and
do
that's the
two
max?
cups a day usually.
2 cups.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
2 cups
Cool.
a day, and I don't drink it until around. I have to be up for at least a couple hours before I drink it. I don't
Yeah.
do any pre-workout. I don't do any type of additional. I have a Monster energy drink at a concert once or
Yeah.
twice a year. That's it. But and then I have a hard cutoff of 2 o'clock. So if I have
Yeah.
my second cup of coffee, and I'll do like a decaf tea or like a decaf coffee if I really need like a hot drink in the afternoon. But I've been getting up earlier lately, so I've been having, usually I'll do like a decaf or a half calf in the morning, and then I'll start my actual like 1 cup of coffee, 2 cups
Yeah.
of coffee, because I
And that's
love the
better for
taste of
your
coffee.
cortisol. That's better for your cortisol in the morning. That's why a lot of people actually recommend
Yes,
that, being up for a minimum of 60 minutes before your coffee. Now,
correct.
I do not do that. I am having my first cup of coffee within about 13 minutes of waking up. Okay. As soon as
I'm
I
not
click,
just.
yeah, I click the start button, it's already prepared from the night before and I'm rocking and rolling. What's interesting, Dr. Pat Luce in his book, Seven Systems Plan, he's a functional doctor. He actually discusses what you just said about how when you have a thyroid disorder, the immune system confuses gluten for thyroid tissue, and then therefore you get that correlation and so
Yeah.
forth. But no, that's really interesting in that. So for you, you can bring in these things. It's the same way with me. I notice with soy or with crappy gluten, I'll say, because I haven't had any problems with the imported gluten, but with typical American gluten and soy, if I have it 2 days in a row, I'm screwed.
Yes.
If I have it one day out of every couple weeks, I'm good. But the first day, I'll feel great. I'll have zero symptoms. The
Yeah.
second day, if I have it again, I'm totally screwed.
Yep. I'm the same way. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
the same. And again, you learn the hard way. But
yeah.
once you start learning how to listen to your body, it tells you what's up. It tells you what
Well,
it does not like.
not only that,
Honestly.
honestly, I tell people all the time, you feel like crap so many times. There is a threshold where you go, man, I just enjoy not feeling like crap.
Mm-hmm.
Where you don't see it as, oh, I have to miss out on this. It's, no, I get to
Right.
feel like this. That doesn't even bother me anymore because I'm just like, no, like
Yeah.
you start just enjoying so much feeling good that you're like,
Yeah.
I don't really care what I have to cut out. It doesn't bother me because I
Yeah.
feel really good.
And it sucks too, because there's a lot of people that, before I have a client that's got a lot of high level issues, go through any type of game plan to target something specific. I have a very real and honest conversation with them. And I'm
Yeah.
like, listen, this is going to require a level of hypervigilance that you've maybe not been used to. And some people will associate that with, oh, this feels imbalanced. This feels being disordered. I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't say it's disordered, but I would definitely say, yes, it's imbalanced. It's out of balance of what you're used to and what will eventually become your norm.
Yeah.
But you have to let it live there for a little while in order to see the benefit of the outcome after
Yeah.
engaging in these new behaviors and these new strategies and these new structures. And so many people will either are like, okay, thank you for telling me what to expect, let's do this, and they
Yeah.
get through it, and they have good days and they have frustrating days, and we just take every single day in stride. And then there's people that will start going through these processes and all they can focus on is what they can't have.
What
And
and I think the big part about it too is it is a social thing, and I think it's
Mhm.
hard to be able to. So for example, when we were all in Dallas for the conference, right? Like when we were there, I felt like at home because I'm with 40 or 50 six and seven
Right.
figure entrepreneurs that are doing just what I'm doing, thinking the way I'm thinking, applying the way I'm applying, and living the way I'm living. But then outside of that, when we all go to our places, like we're all very weird because we're like probably the one-offs on our situation. But it's the same thing nutritionally. It's not just entrepreneurially. That just happens to be the same exact thing. Nutritionally is the same thing. And it's you have to be ballsy to set a new standard and be like, hey, no, I don't do that. And that might divide certain things and this, that, and the other. But you have to be willing to just stand up for your health and be like, hey, I'm giving you permission here, like me, Nick, you, Elena. We're giving the audience permission to be like, we've been in that same situation. And at
Mhm.
some point we had to draw the line. And it's not only drawn to where I do that now, it's drawn to where the people that used to have a problem with it fully respect it now. They think about you
Yeah.
differently, like in a different way to where it's no longer an issue. It is what it is. People know when Nick comes over, Nick's not going to eat that crap fruit. We're either going to make him another meal or he's going to bring his own or whatever. There's something there where they just know, yeah, I'm probably not going to indulge in all of that lasagna and this, that, and the other because it's going to ruin me tomorrow. And I
Yeah.
actually have a busy day tomorrow. That's the other thing too, is I had to really. Oh, so me and my mom, I flew her out here for her 70th birthday a couple weeks ago. She'd probably kill me if she knew I said that she just turned 70. But so I flew her out here to Monterey and I took her to the nicest steakhouse in Monterey with a couple other cousins and stuff. And we went to I'm a member of a wine club. So when you said you liked wine, I'm like, I just picked up my wine shipment last week. So I'm with you,
Nice.
girl. But so I took her to the wine club. We had some wine tastings and then to the steakhouse. And at the steakhouse, I haven't eaten any crap food in a long time. That night I had two creme brulees.
Ooh.
And I had predicted, I said, hey, listen, I'm going to feel like crap tomorrow. So none of y'all call me to do anything. I'm going to be worthless tomorrow. I'm going to be laying down probably the whole day, but figured I enjoy it. I had accepted the reality that was probably going to happen. What's interesting, the next morning, I actually didn't feel like crap. And I guess
That's
it was
good.
because I hadn't done that in so long that one night
Yeah.
it ruined me, right? I've had to shift my mind that way to where I know, like tomorrow morning for ministry, I'm teaching at 7 a.m. my time. So what does that mean? Is that there's no way I'm going to go out to eat tonight and eat any bad food because I know that I have stuff to do tomorrow. If there is that very small random chance in my very busy entrepreneurial journey right now that I might have a day where I'm like, hey, I could screw off tomorrow and I'll still be okay, then maybe I'll eat something tonight. But I
Yeah.
have to press into that reality of no, that food will cripple me and I'm too busy. I have work, I have meetings tomorrow. I just can't
Mhm.
do it. So that's also part of the process that I have to go through.
Yeah, there's a huge mindset shift. And again, this kind of goes back to what I said earlier of if you want to live in a body that feels good, that functions well, and especially if you have autoimmune disease, and especially if you have the Hashimoto's specifically, because
Yeah,
it's a beast. It's really common, and unfortunately, people just don't know that they're walking around with it a lot of times, and so they
right,
have no idea why they don't feel good,
right,
because their doctors are not pulling the correct labs, and even if they get the right labs, they're not looking at the right things and correlations is to figure out what it is.
sure.
And so I almost treat every individual who has just general hypothyroidism as if they had Hashimoto's because they might,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
also the management of Hashimoto's and just general lifestyle hypothyroidism are not that different. But in general, it comes with accepting the fact that, and this was funny, that because this is actually inspired by a conversation that I had with Taylor in her
Oh yeah,
kitchen. It was me and we were staying at her house one time. It was me and her and Caitlin, and we were going to concerts. Taylor's one of my best friends, and me and Taylor and Caitlin were friends outside of just like business stuff. And we were like getting ready to go to a coffee shop. Uh, and we're like all packing. Again, you're with like-minded people, right? It's easy to travel with people who have similar values with you. We
sure.
wake up, we go to the gym, we go to work for a couple hours at a coffee shop, and then we go play for the rest of the day. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's the sort of the routine. And
Yeah.
we're all like getting our little snacks and sandwiches and whatever. We went to the grocery store, we got to town, whatever, and we're putting our stuff together. And Taylor just she just stops and sighs and goes, "Being fit is hard." Yes, it is. Even for people who do this on a regular basis,
Yeah.
We're still having to carve out time, make the effort, have the intention and the follow through to behaviors that other people are not willing to engage in because they think it's quote unquote too hard. Guess what? It is hard sometimes. Now, the mental bandwidth of doing these behaviors and engaging in the lifestyle changes over time reduces. And that's why, again, I had that conversation earlier of like, when you start on this journey, it's okay to accept that there's going to be a little bit a higher level of vigilance to embarking upon this because it will take more bandwidth. It's going to be a bit of a learning curve, right? And it doesn't mean it's bad, right? Just because it's hard doesn't mean it's bad. And it's getting that ball rolling. So to the point where eventually one day, the days that you have where you, like you said, can I have a day where if I don't have a lot going on and I can just screw off and do whatever I want, that when you have those days,
Yeah.
those are no longer the norm. They're the exception. But so many people are living in that screw off mentality all the time. And they've normalized it and they've normalized how they feel day to day. And I am firmly in the camp of life is too short to feel bad every single day and constantly struggle and constantly feel like you're slogging through the day-to-day, the to-do list of getting to the gym, if you even made it to the gym, because I'm too tired to go to the gym. Oh my gosh, because you're not going to the gym. I don't like cooking. I don't like leftovers. I don't like this. And okay, do you like feeling like how you feel right now? No, I don't know what to tell you. You're going to have to do some things you maybe don't necessarily like.
That's it.
I'm sorry.
And the reality is, even psychologists and them say, hey, listen, the way that you actually grow mentally is by doing things that you don't want to do. That's literally what grows you. It's that stressor that literally enhances our physiology and our mentality and everything else, right?
Yeah. So if your threshold is here, you have to push yourself to here.
Exactly.
Like 6 out of 7 days a week. And then you stretch and then it grows. And then you just inch yourself up. But it doesn't happen if you don't actually do something differently with your life, right?
Yep.
And so again, for hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's specifically, right? It's the gut issues, it's the energy issues, it's the brain fog, it's the fatigue. What are you going to do with your life if that's your reality? You're going to spend the next 60 years being brain fogged, fatigued, gaining weight, feeling like ass, eating things that make you sick. And oh my gosh, Nick, the thing that drives me so insane is the haha funny normalization of like memes and like cutesy little things on Instagram of hot girls have tummy problems. Stop it. I want to smack those girls. Stop normalizing this.
Dude, I'm telling you.
It's not funny because this is going to mean that you're going to struggle when you're 60 or 70 years old. You're going to have brittle bones because your gut is fucked. You're not absorbing nutrients and you're going to break a hip.
The other day, not the other day, I feel like I say it almost every day, but I always tell people, I say, listen, what is normal? Like type 2 diabetes is normal in the United States. Being obese, having an autoimmune at this point for women, especially 4 out of 5 autoimmunes are women. All that's normal. It's not optimal. Like it's not, it doesn't mean, hey, this is okay. This is good. It just means, hey, it's normal, which is not necessarily a good thing at all in any way, shape, or form. But this is honestly, just being very real, this is the reason why, one of the reasons, not all the reasons, but one of the reasons why I bought my apartment in Greece and why, God willing, in 2025, I'm still planning to move out of the United States
to Greece.
Because the thing is that people go, Nick, isn't your business Lifestyle of Eden, isn't it embodying a lot of their principles? I go, it is, but I want to go and actually live somewhere where that is normal, where like it's not normal to go and eat fast food and do this, that, and the other. It's not normal to go whatever. Like I want to go live in a place, at least for a time being, to see what it really looks like to be like, no, actually, you're weird if you don't do these things. I want everybody around me doing that because then it really retrains your mind. I always tell people, if you're a nutritionist in the United States and all you know is United States nutrition and mind of thinking when it comes to nutrition, you don't know anything about nutrition. I'm sorry, you don't. Like if you're in the United States and you've only lived here and all, that's fine, but you have to learn that our way of doing things is not the way.
It's not the way most of the world does things.
No, 30 of our foods are felony drugs in other countries. Like 30, and not only 30 of the foods, 30 of the foods that's on our kids' shelves. Yeah. Like the kids' foods, it's not even so much the adult foods, it's the kids' foods that's actually a felony in 30 other countries and, 30 of our foods and everything else. So that's really where I'm at. And that's why I was like, man, I've got to get, which is why I'm glad if I have to be in the United States, I'm glad I am where I am in Monterey or in California, where so much of our food is farmers market. The wine is
Mhm.
fresh. We're by the beach. Everyone's chilling. Like that is a big thing I'm very thankful for. It's probably the closest I'll get to Greece is here in the United, at least in the United States, at least,
Mhm.
or maybe Hawaii. Who knows? Maybe that's the next step.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it's
It's
that,
true though.
but it really is that surrounding is you have to find yourself to surround that. And who knows, maybe you have to be the one off that starts that circle. Meaning
Correct.
once you do it, then I'm sure others will feel safe enough to come and join along,
Yeah.
do those different things, right?
Because here's the thing is that I know that people want to be healthy.
Yes.
I know, and that's not me saying, oh, everybody wants to be skin and bones and skinny and thin and
Right.
lean and whatever. I'm like, no, people just want to feel healthy. Like I'm
Right.
talking, you wake up, you don't need to peel yourself out of bed after hitting snooze 10 times. You're able to eat on regular intervals because your body is cueing you for hunger at a normal and regular rate. You're able to not have crazy energy dips as the day goes on because your blood sugar and energy management responses are metabolically sound. You don't have to take 10 different medications for anxiety, depression,
Right.
whatever, things like that, cholesterol medication and high blood pressure medication. You don't have to go to the doctor and get your prescriptions refilled every 3 months. You don't have to take 10 different supplements just to get to sleep at night.
Yeah.
You like that's I think that if the majority of people, I think that's honestly what the majority of people want. But it's again, it's that societal dysfunction that a lot of the things that are driving the issues that people have day to day are normalized. So that we have normalized as a society, as an American society, a lot of this
Yeah.
dysfunction. Because you are correct, in other parts of the world, it's not, it's different. It is different when you go and you travel. I've been privileged to travel to several places, and it's not the same here. It is different.
Right.
But I think that it lends us to believe that when you start to make these changes and you're going to come up against those societal pressures of your peers, of your family, of your friends, whatever it is, and that you are the one that is setting the new normal of what it is to live your life, and you're the one that starts to say no to things in order to say yes to your health. It really does. There's a quote that I see float around on Instagram because that's where we hang out a lot. And it's that your new life is going to cost you your old one. And to a degree,
Mm,
that's true because it's not just the fear of what other people are going to think about what you're doing for your life, but it's your emotional attachment to those things
yeah.
that's going to hold
That's
you
good.
back. And once you start to become, it's this fear of actually succeeding because once you get there, the things that you currently know are no longer going to be able to be a part of your life in the way that they were before. Well, what's
Yeah.
going to fill that void? You don't know. And that's scary. That's really terrifying to a lot of people. And so they'll self sabotage a lot of times because it's a lot easier to stay in that familiar hell.
Yeah.
Comfortable. You know what to expect. It's like rewatching Friends for the 20th time or whatever. But yeah, I think there's the societal pressure of it. And it is really shitty because there's some like real consequences to not managing these things. There's some real life consequences to not managing these things. You're
Yeah.
not free
Right.
from those consequences. Nobody is. The science will science whether you decide to make a change or not. It'll either go in your favor or you'll keep getting worse.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
I don't know what to tell you, especially, okay, I want to ask you a question real fast.
Yep.
Okay. Of your clients, your female clients specifically, who have struggled with Hashimotos, even just like thyroid problems in general, how many of them had a healthy menstrual cycle?
Man.
Or were they also all screwed in that?
Yeah, I was about to say, oh crap. The thing is, actually, what's interesting is probably about half off the top of my head are postmenopausal.
Yep.
But
Probably
man,
too early.
yeah, but honestly, there's a lot of them. Oh my gosh, I just reviewed one today, same thing, and she's 39, and I look at her blood work, and I'm looking at her luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone, and I look at it and I go, "Are you perimenopause?" And she goes, what? I don't
happening
know.
earlier and earlier.
I go, your LH is shot up. Your FSH is waiting, which means it'll be full menopause when that goes up. But I go, dude, you're perimenopause. You're 39 years old. And we were
And
looking at,
just to tell people, that's about a decade and a half too early.
oh, it's
At
radically too
least.
early.
At
Yeah, it's
least.
great. That's why I was sitting there, my jaw dropped. I go, you're freaking perimenopause at 39 years old. And I said, listen, so and so, I go, this is nothing other. She has a major gut issue. We're getting a GI map on, and she's got other things with Ozempic and semaglutide and some other thought, whatever. But I said, this is all like hormonal stuff freaking out because your body's under such a stress from the gut, from leaky gut, which is obviously the root of hashis in many cases and all these things. But that is actually interesting. It's not what, and the reason I brought that up was because it's not just menstrual. It's well, that is also involved in the menstrual, right? So it's all of that, right? It's just all encapsulating with that.
And then we talk about, okay, because the systems don't work in a silo. Everything's impacting the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, right? And so when I talk about like hormones, a lot of times I reference, okay, what is the order of operations, basically, from like hormonal function? And your thyroid function directly precedes your reproductive hormones, right? When we're talking about like functionality, right? Somebody who is a menstruating female who is hypothyroid or dealing with Hashimoto's, I've got questions about your progesterone production. I just want to take a look at that and see what's going on there because there's probably something not so great there. And let's see, like, how's your PMS? What's going on here? And diving into those things, because when we then think about, okay, then what is the follow up to years and years of menstrual distress, right? Of the body's reproductive system not working. Well, for women especially, you're looking at higher risk of osteoporosis. You're looking at your cardio protective being compromised, your heart issues as you get older. You're also looking at neuroprotective qualities not being where they need to be as you age. And that's really terrifying. Especially for me, that's personally really terrifying because I lost my father to Alzheimer's. That's like terrifying to me. So I'm like, now I'm like slightly neurotic about, like, okay, where are my sex hormones? Are we like good? Is everything good? Okay, everything's good. I'm just like watching them like a hawk because I'm like, I want to keep things running and rolling. And everybody hates their period. I'm like, can you stop pushing the narrative that your period is the worst thing that ever happens to you and that it's the worst experience ever? Because that is a sign of poor health if it is out of whack, and not just poor health acutely, but long term. And again, it's like talking about what are the real factors, and then again talking about that if your thyroid's out of whack, your cholesterol and your LDL production, like that clearance is going to be compromised. Now you're going to start dealing with issues like, hey, when was the last time you checked your insulin?
That's right.
You know what I mean? Because that insulin will start to come up before you even start seeing issues with fasted glucose and postprandial glucose. And so, like, where's that going to be? And it's because that insulin is starting to compensate. And then all of a sudden you're 50 years old and you have diabetes and you're 40 pounds overweight and you're in perimenopause a decade plus sooner than you should be. And that's your reality because you didn't stop to slow down and check and see, am I actually living the way that I need to live to protect myself, not just for the next month or the next day, knowing how those decisions impact you acutely, but where am I in 20 years? Where am I in 30 years?
Yeah.
Where am I in 40 years? And we don't pay attention to these things because it's easier to scroll on your phone at night and just pretend it doesn't exist.
No, that's good. Did you happen to go through a 5R gut protocol or no?
No, I didn't even know what that was for years. You until recently, the last couple years, learned about it and started because I do GMS with my clients. But yeah, no, I didn't go through that. I literally I didn't know anybody who knew how to do gut protocols until I worked with Mark Tominick.
Wow.
In like 2020.
Goodness gracious. That's
Yeah.
crazy. But it's still awesome that you got the radical results you did without all of that. You know what I mean?
I was just personally relentless.
Yeah.
I was my own guinea pig for a few years.
Yeah. And
I was just relentless to finding a solution because I knew that this is not the way I wanted to live.
I've been the same way. I've been a guinea pig. Me and Jason were just talking about that on a podcast the other day. It was just we've experimented on ourselves so much. Sometimes that has worked out negative, but hey, most of the time it works out really great. And at the end of the day, every prescription, every drug, every protocol has been experimented on somebody. So why not experiment it on myself right now so that then I can implement it for clientele or do whatever it is I need to do or and so forth. So no, that's awesome. And honestly, I think that this is a really practical podcast and journey, hearing yours, because it's not the perfect journey, right? And no journey is. It's like, hey, there was these, and then there was this, and there was the ups, and there was the downs, and then there was the I was feeling great, and then I realized, oh, 2 days into gluten, I felt like crap, and then I had to realize my boundaries. And that's what I like about it, because the reality is that's what all of my clients look like, where they, like, one person just asked me today, he just signed up with me today. His wife is one of my clients, and so he joined with me today, and he had hashis markers, and so that was why he started literally this morning. And so he had said, Nick, how long will this take to fix all this? And I said, look, dude, I go, within the next couple months, you're going to have radical changes for the better, radical. But I said, every person's different, and I've got to figure out not only what is the root of this from the physical aspect, what's going on, but I got to figure out your lifestyle issues that we're going to have to really change and implement going forward, because in 12 months, when you're not under me anymore, I don't want this stuff to come back. So I have to really figure out your lifestyle factors that we got to work with. So I can't really give you that time slot. And the thing that I get annoyed about with people is that that's the first thought process, is like, hey, how long until I can go back to this? No, that's the point, is that we're not
You
going
can't.
we're moving forward into a new wineskin, a new way of thinking, a new thought process, a new lifestyle. It's like what we said earlier, what gets you healed will keep you healed.
Correct.
Period. You know,
and
like,
to be fair, there is going to come a point where things will feel quote unquote more normal, but it still won't be the same normal that you were living in before. It's going to be a different version of it. It's going to be like you 2.0. But I get the same question a lot, where people are like, how long is this going to take? And I'm like, I can give you ballpark of what it might take and how long we're going to try certain things. But at the end of the day, a lot of it comes down to your adherence, your mindset, your ability to engage in things beyond just the food and the exercise. Because I think that the other thing that people really underestimate, I get clients that are like, I'm doing this thing and it's not working. And I'm like, cool, but you also still haven't done any of the stress management that I've asked you to do.
there you go.
And they're like, but it can't just be stress. I'm like, but it actually can.
It can be.
Like, yes, absolutely it can. There's a reason that I gained 20 pounds over the course of 3 months after my dad got his diagnosis.
Yeah.
That was not an accident. And there's a reason I wasn't able to lose it until after he died. That's not a coincidence. You know what I mean? Like, people really underestimate the impact of stress. And so I can give you something and you could be adherent to every little thing, but if you're not sleeping well and you're not tending to your stress management and your mindset and actively getting into that rest and digest and learning what it feels like to turn off that fight or flight mode regularly throughout the day, throughout the week, I can give you the best protocols that are most appropriate to you till I'm blue in the face, but none of it's going to work. And then again, people just don't, it's so easy to cling to the busyness, the running around like a chicken with your head cut off, and then having 2 days straight where you just do nothing but rot on the couch and eat potato chips.
That's right. That's right.
And so it's when we're talking about these things, it's a lot of it is going to be the first, I have a three-step coaching framework that I take people through. And the first step of that framework is called rest. It's rest. It's identifying where your misconceptions are with how you need to handle exercise, with how you're managing your sleep and your stress management, and teaching you how to actually slow down so that we can speed up.
There you go.
Right?
That's
but
good.
you've got to put in that prep work. It's like the prep work before you can even get into anything. I don't even look at clients' weigh-ins usually for the first couple months. Like, I'll have them track their data and stuff like that, and I'll maybe take a glance at it just to make sure things aren't going too haywire in one direction or the other. But that's usually not the priority. I'm more focused on what are your behaviors like. And moving you through this process. Yeah, it's such a missed opportunity for people to make improvements.
Yeah.
When
No,
they skip those steps.
I agree. It's the lifestyle aspect, and that's probably the most critical component, but that's the part that we as practitioners have to really implement boundaries on and really show them, because they don't know it's like whenever I was talking to an executive assistant not too long ago, I said, hey, I need you to bring things into my business that I don't know that I need because I don't know that I need them, plain and
Mhm.
simple. That's what we have to bring in their lives because they don't know and they don't realize how bad the lifestyle factors are. We have to show them, hey, this is actually how far this off this is, and this is what I got to do, and this, that, and the other. So
Yeah.
it's just it's a big part of ignorance, which ignorance is not that's not a bad word. That's
Yeah.
fine. You don't know. Yeah. So that's part of our job, but
Yep.
that's something that we get to do on a daily basis. You got to live through it. I get to live through it. Quite frankly, I am living through it. I'm constantly learning how to like better stress manage and all these
Yes.
different things.
And again, that's the piece of it that's a journey. Is
Right.
different seasons of your life are going to require different levels of opportunities to decompress and de-stress and tend to your mental and emotional well-being, because that is a key component of your physical health. It will
Right.
directly impact your physical health. And again, it's just so underrated. And so I can't stress enough, no pun intended, that if you're somebody who is constantly running around like a crazy person, but you're also saying, I'm not really that stressed. Your body doesn't know that. Your body's disagreeing with you.
That's right.
Because I get people, oh, I don't think I'm that stressed. And then they're telling me how they feel on a daily basis. And I'm like, your mouth is saying one thing, your biofeedback is saying another.
Right.
Like, my
Yeah.
friend. And then it's okay. I did this for a couple days and I didn't feel any difference. How about a couple years?
Yeah. Yeah.
Literally. How about a couple years? Give me 2 years of spending 3 minutes a day doing some 4x4 box breathing, and then come tell me that it didn't work. And if anybody tells me that they don't have 3 minutes a day, you're a damn liar.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
you just don't want to sit in the silence. You just don't want to sit in the discomfort of the quiet. And that's what you're avoiding. And you're using busy as an opportunity to avoid engaging in a behavior that forces you to sit in your own mind for three
Yeah.
minutes a day.
Yeah.
And
That's good.
that's part of what's keeping you sick.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's really good. No,
Soapbox
I
off.
think yeah, yeah, drop mic on it. Yeah. No, that's really good. I love that. And like I said, I think it was practical steps for people because people hear me talk about really how to heal Hashimoto's and reversing autoimmune disease and all these different things, but there's a difference between the knowledge of it and the protocols of it and just what was the life experience, what can you expect on the
Mm-hmm.
emotional roller coaster journey of this. And so I think that you really brought a super insightful revelation of like really what that looks like, what that looked like, and what it still currently looks like, and what it's going to continue to look like. So that's awesome. I love it. Elena, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun.
Absolutely. And for all the viewers, Elena's information is going to be down in the comment section. Give her a follow, reach out to her if you're needing help with your Hashimoto's journey or any functional case for that matter. And just go give her a follow. She pumps awesome content with her podcast and everything else. So, once again, Elena, thank you so much. And for everybody else, stay tuned for the next episode.